All right, hello. This is going to be the 2024 State Mathematics Test, a very famous test for the history of Grand Oaks, and one that's pretty well made, all things considered. Let's begin starting at question 1. Consider this formula. F is the focal length, DO is distance from the lens to the object, DI is distance from lens to the image. If the focal length of the lens is 24 centimeters, distance from the lens to the object is 36. Find the distance from the lens to the image. Well, in this case, you're just plugging in values here. So 1 over 24 is equal to 1 over 36 plus 1 over your unknown distance, and you get 72. 2, during tax-free weekend, Penelope, Sydney, and Alexa went to Academy Sports, purchased some cross-country attire. Penelope purchased 4 shirts, 3 shorts, and some shoes. The shoes cost $82, and she spent a total of 196 bucks. Alexa purchased 6 shirts, 4 shorts, and some shoes. The shoes cost $98. She spent a total of 260, and all shirts were the same price, and same with shorts. She purchased this stuff. How much did she spend? Well, this is going to be a systems of equations problem. You can imagine how much are they paying on stuff that isn't shoes, basically. So they bought 4 shirts, 3 shorts, and they spent a total of 196 minus the $82 they spent on shoes on those 2 items. Then Alexa did similarly, 6 shirts, 4 shorts, and then she spent a total of 260 minus $98 on those items. And then once you put that into your matrix, you do RF. If you watch these videos, you should know how to do this by now. RF, and then you'll get the values for the prices of your shirts and shorts, and then you can figure out the price of 2 shirts and 3 shorts. 5 times Rose's age is 2 more than Carrie's age. In 10 years, Arlene will be twice as old as Carrie. 2 years ago, Arlene was 14 times as old as Rose. How old is Arlene? Well, this is just a bunch of making of equations. 5 times Rose's age is 2 more than Carrie's age. And then Arlene's age 10 years down the road will be twice as old as Carrie's age 10 years down the road. And then the same thing for minus 2, or 2 years ago. So now the challenge is just putting it in the matrix correctly. For this, I put R here, C here, and A here. So Rose, Carrie, and Arlene. So 5 rows, move this C over to the other side. So 5R minus C is equal to 2. And then 0R minus 2C plus A is equal to 10, if you simplify this out. And then negative 14R plus 0C plus A is equal to negative 26. Simplify that out. Do that, and you'll get a value of 86 for Arlene's age. Consider the points negative 6, 2, 8, 4, 2, negative 6, and negative 10, 4. Find distance from point A to the midpoint of BC. Well, distance on a plane is distance in x squared plus distance in y squared, square root of that. So we need to find the midpoint of BC. Well, that's just the average of your x and y values, so 5 and negative 1. And then once you have that, you have your x. The distance from negative 6 to 5 is 11, and the distance from 3 to negative 1 is 3, or 2 to negative 1 is 3. So square root of change in x squared plus change in y squared will get you 11.4 as your distance. If AC is parallel to DE, the coordinates of point E are A2, then what is A? Well, if it's parallel, that means they have the same slope, so let's find the slope of AC. Well, it goes down, the change in y is negative 8, and the change in x is positive 8, so your slope is negative 1. So now that you have your slope, you can put it in point slope form for this given coordinate here. Negative x plus 10 minus 4 will be equal to your y, or it will be equal to 0, or in this case, it's equal to 2. Yeah. Or yeah, this would be y, and then y is equal to 2. And then if you do that, you'll get an A value of negative 16. Given FG is a perpendicular bisector of AB, coordinates of point F are 3B, then B is what? Well, perpendicular bisector means you flip the slope and make it negative. So a slope of AB is 2 over 14, increase in 2 of y and increase in 14 of x. So your perpendicular slope is negative 7. Put in the point for FG. It's a perpendicular bisector, so that means you need to find the midpoint of AB. Is that because it would bisect it? So the midpoint, 1, 3, as you can clearly see. The coordinates 1, 3, so negative 7, x minus 1 plus 3. In point slope form again. And if you do that, plug in 3 for that, you get a value of negative 11. Caleb took a 3-day trip, distance of a bunch of miles. Day 1, he drove 577 miles, 62 miles per hour. Day 2, 464 miles, average speed of 72 miles per hour. And they spent a total of 20.8 hours on the trip. And what's his average speed on day 3? Well, time is equivalent to distance over speed. So if we add up all the distances over speed, then we'll officially get the time of 20.8 hours. So 577 miles, that's 62 miles per hour. That's part of the time. Then 464 miles, 72 miles per hour, another part of the time. And then everything else was traveled at an unknown speed. So the entire distance minus the parts traveled on day 1 and day 2, divided by some unknown speed of x, will get you 20.8 or 20.8 hours. And if you do that, you'll get a speed of 67.7 miles per hour. 8. Renita flew from Portland to Dallas to visit her favorite sister. Round trip cost $882. Rented a car for $48 per day, 0.32 per mile. Drove a total of 448 miles during 12 days she was there. And she also spent $366 on shirts and hat. How much did the trip cost? You're just adding and multiplying all the stuff together. The round cost, the cost of the car per day multiplied by the number of days, cost per mile multiplied by number of miles, and then the 366 of souvenirs. And you get 19,067.36. Consider an arithmetic sequence in which the fourth term is 37 and the 11th term is 93. Find the sum of the first 16 terms. Well, we need to figure out the common difference or the rate at which it increases because it's an arithmetic sequence. Each term is equivalent to the past term plus some number. So what you do to figure that out is you subtract the values of 2.2 terms, and then you divide it by the distance of those two terms. So 93 minus 37 over 7 gets you a rate of 8. And then once you have that, you need to find the sum of the first 16 terms. So the sum from 1 to 16 of 37, which is we're going to kind of write this in point slope form as well, in a way. 37 plus 8 times 8, which is your rate, times x minus 4. And what this does is this cancels out the fact that this is the fourth term instead of like the 0th term. And then hopefully you can understand that the sixth term would be 2 times the rate plus the fourth term. Seventh term would be 3 times the rate plus the fourth term, etc. So if you do that, you'll get a value of 1168. Consider the circle on the right. If AB is 14, BC is 18, AE is 16, what is DE? Well, okay. You're given the value of AB and you're given the value of BC. This is going to be our inside or partly inside, partly outside segment secant lines, I guess. If you remember the formula for that, it's appeared on basically every test. Length of the outside piece times length of the entire piece is equivalent among all secant lines. So AB, or 14, times AC, or 14 plus 18, is equal to AE, or 16, times AD, which is ED plus AE, so 16 plus your unknown length. And if you solve for that, you'll get an x value of 12. Consider the equilateral triangle PQR with a circumscribed circle. The area of the circle is 339. The area of triangle PQR is what? Well, first off, let's figure out the radius of the circle. So radius is the square root of the area divided by pi. That's just rearranging the formula a bit, and you get a radius of 30.387. Now, once you have that, you have the center of your triangle in a way, and you can draw. You can kind of here. I'll try and draw it to the best of my abilities. I hope you can realize that this entire 360 degrees of the circle was split into three segments, and that the circle would look like, that, and okay, you get what I'm saying. So yeah, that because there are three segments of this 360-degree circle, each angle is 120 degrees. Well, we have this value, it's just our radius. So you can use our SAS triangle program with the angle of 120 for the side, or or 400 angle of 120 for your angle, and then R for your two sides. And you'll get a side of 18, I believe. Then once you have that, area of equilateral triangle, side squared times square root of 3 over 4, and you get 140. Okay. Consider the circle on the right. If the measure of minor arc HK is 128 and measure of angle is 33 degrees, measure of minor arc GJ is what? Well, if you remember our equation from last time, HK minus GJ is equal to 2 times this angle. So rearranging that a bit, if you subtract 2 times the angle by 128, you will get this GJ length of 62. 13, the total area of a cylinder with a radius 14 is 3343 centimeters squared. Volume of the centimeter is what? Well, area or surface area of a cylinder comprises of two parts, the circles on the top and the bottom, and the lateral surface area on the side of the cylinder. So the area of the two circles, 14 squared times pi times 2, plus the lateral surface area, which is the circumference, 14 times 2 pi, times the unknown height. And that combines to 3343. If you do that, you'll get a height of 24. And then once you do that, you could use the equation for volume of a cylinder, r squared times pi, to get you your length of the base, and then multiply it by your height to get 14,780. 14, consider the circle on the right with center O. Chord AC intersects diameter BD at point E. If BD is equal to 18 and AC is equal to 14, BE is what? Well, there are multiple ways you can do this. I'm just going to go with, you can use our chord theorem like we talked about earlier. AE times EC equals BE times ED. You can very well do that. Alternatively, you can use the method I came up when I saw this problem, which is, you know that BD is the diameter, so that means the radius is 9. And you know that AC is being split into half because BD is diameter and AC is perpendicular. That's how it works. So, since this is a right angle, you can use Pythagorean theorem. So your radius of 9 squared minus CE of 7 squared will get you this OE, and then you simply subtract that from 9, and you will get the value of BE of 3.3. 15, given ABC is inscribed in a circle with measurement of C equal to 90 degrees, AC is 7, and the perimeter of triangle is 56. What is the area of the circle? Now, whenever you have a circle or a triangle inscribed in a circle in a right angle, that means that the hypotenuse is the diameter of the circle, because this is an inscribed angle, and inscribed angles make up half of the degree of the arc they put. So a 90-degree angle means that AB comprises of 180 degrees of your 360 degrees in your circle. In other words, it covers half your circle, so it has to be the diameter. So once you do that, you use your equation to figure out this side CB. Well, the perimeter is 7 plus CB plus AB. So 7 plus your unknown side plus Pythagorean theorem to figure out AB. 7 squared plus x squared has to be equal to 56. And if you do that, you'll get a value of x equals 24. Then use Pythagorean theorem to figure out AB of 25, and then use area of a circle, so r squared times pi. And you'll get a value of 491. Consider triangle ABC with measurement of ABC is equal to 90 degrees. Point D lies on AC such that measurement of ADB is 90 degrees. If AD is 6, CD is 13, what is the perimeter of the triangle? This appeared on a few other tests. If you remember, when there's two right angles like this, the two sides BC and AB are equal to the similar side times the entire side. So AB is equal to 6 times the entire 19, or AB squared is equal to 6 times the entire 19. And BC squared is equal to 13 times the entire 19. Then once you have that, add AB, BC, and 19 to get a perimeter of 45.4. 17, the circle shown on the right has an area of 707. Measurement of BAC is 30 degrees. Point O center of the triangle. Find the area of angle AOC. Well, let's figure out the radius of your circle first. R squared times pi is 707. Put that in EQ solver and you'll get R is equal to 15. That's your radius. Now you need to figure out the area of AOC. Well, you're given that this angle right here is 30. And because these AO and OC are both radiuses, that means that their sides are congruent, and this angle also has to be 30 degrees. And then once you have that, there are 180 degrees in the triangle, so subtract those two angles, and you get 120 degrees for angle AOC. Then once you have that, you can use the area of a triangle formula. So your two top sides times sine of your angle over 2. 15 squared sine of 120 over 2 gets you 97.4. 18, find the area of the region bounded by the chord BC and minor arc BC. Okay, well, now that you know this angle is 120, this angle right here is a supplementary angle, so this has to be 60 degrees. Now, once you do that, once again, these sides are both the radius, so you can use your formula for area of region bounded by chord and arc, which is going to be the entire area of BOC, the circle or segment, and BOC, the triangle. So radius squared times pi times 60 degrees over the entire 360 degrees in your circle, and subtracted with the triangle area. So 15 squared times sine of 60 over 2. And you'll get an area of 90 or 20.4. 19, given triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. AB is 36, BC is 39, AC is 42, DF is 28. Point G is the midpoint of DF. What is EG? Well, we can base it. There are probably some ways you can do this, but I'm going to go with the easier way, which is basically use SSS to figure out this angle C right here, which since they're similar also corresponds to this angle F. And then you can use SAS to figure out this side length right here. So you'll get it once you use SSS triangle program, you'll get angle C is equivalent to 52.617 degrees. Put that right here. This side is going to be equivalent to the proportion of a triangle multiplied by that side. So each side on DEF is 2/3 of the side on AC because 28 over 42 is 2/3. So 39 times 28 over 42 will get you EF. Your other side is going to be half of this DF, so 14, because it's going to the midpoint. And your angle is what we found earlier. And you'll get a side length of 20.7. Point H lies on AC, and ray BH bisects ABC. AH is equivalent to what? This is your angle bisector again. You have your, excuse me, it's going to be equivalent to, you have your proportion of 36, or you have your corresponding side of 36. You have your entire thing of 36 plus 39, so 75. So AH is going to make up of 36 over 75 of the entire 42 length side. So 30, in other words, 36 over 75 times 42 will get you the length of AH. We went over this on previous tests if you want a more in-depth explanation as to why. The area of triangle BHC is what? BHC, well, once you have that, right, well, you can just do area of triangle again. You have, actually, what did I, oh, right, yeah. You got to figure out this side, HC. Well, and you use the same method as before, 39 over 75 times 42, or, yeah, so that's shown here, or sorry, that's shown here, actually. And then that's one of your sides. Then your other side is this 39 right here. And then your angle is still going to be this angle we found earlier of 62.617. Divide by 2 because it's a triangle, and you get an area of 338. 22, Rachel accepted a job with a salary of 95,000. Over the next 19 years, she was given a 6% raise. What is the total compensation she received? Well, this is going to be the sum of all her yearly salary, so sum from 1 to 20 of her starting salary times 1.06 power to the number of years that she's been given a 6% raise. So at year 2, she's been given 6% raise. Year 3, she's given 2. Yeah, all that continues. So 1.06 powered to x minus 1. And if you do that, you'll get a value of 3,494,631. 23, given sine of u is negative 24 over 25 and cosine of v is negative 3 over 5. Both u and v are in quadrant 3. Evaluate secant of u minus v. Well, since they're in quadrant 3, if that means that you can to convert from sine, well, you get sine negative 1 of negative 24 over 25. That will get you some negative value that's like down here. You need to get to the equivalent value over here in quadrant 3. Like you need to get from here to here, which means you need to do 180 minus this angle right here, which will be negative, which will essentially add it to the 180 degrees on this side and get the corresponding side. So 180 minus sine negative 1 of negative 24 over 25 will get you angle U. And then you can do 360 minus cosine negative 1 of negative 3 over 5, because cosine negative 1 will get you in quadrant 2. So if you go that way from quadrant, so basically you've gone all the way over here, but you need to go all the way over here, like the method I'm showing you. So you need to go in the other direction starting at 360. And if you do that, you'll get a value of v. And then you can do secant, or 1 over cosine of u minus v. Convert to a fraction, and you get 125 or 117. 24, consider the sequence 2, 5, 9, 14, 20, 27, 35. What's the sum of the first 24 terms? Well, as you can clearly see, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5, plus 6. Each term is the previous one plus one more than was previously added. So you can imagine it as u of 2, for example, is equal to u of 1, this 2, plus 3. So 2 into plus 1. Then if you go to u of 3, it's this u of 2 plus n plus 1, which is 4. All that continues. So therefore, the pattern you'll be putting in the sequential mode is that equation right there. And then once you do that, you just do summation of n equals 1 to 24 of u of n. And if you do that, you'll get a value of 2,900. 25, Audrey invested 100K for 4 years. If the interest was compounded monthly rather than quarterly, she would have made 345.93 more. What was the annual interest rate? Well, okay, we're going to map that out. 100,000 invested in a bank that compounds most monthly means that the rate's going to be 1 plus x over the unknown rate divided by the amount of times you compound, power to your time times the number of times you compound a year. So that's done there. Then you subtract it from the same situation when it was compounded quarterly. So 1 plus x over 4, power to 4 times 4. And that has to be equal to making $345.93 more. Do that. Make sure you have an X value that's like 0.05 or something so it doesn't give you some weird value. And you'll get 8.66 as your percentage. 26. Assume July temperatures vary sinusoidally. Once you see that, you should know you're using your sinu program. So program, miscellaneous, sinu. Uh, you're looking for how many brown bears are visible at a given time, so you know your X. Your minimum is 48 degrees. Your maximum is 68 degrees. Your period, well, after 12 hours, it goes from low to high, so your period is 2 times that, or 24. And now you need to find the distance from your center. Well, they want to know what it's like at 12 p.m. This is 12 p.m. for those who don't. It catches you off guard a bit, but it's 1 hour after 11 a.m. So, in other words, it's 4 hours before 4 p.m. and 8 hours after 4 a.m. So the center is going to be, well, this is 16. This can be imagined as like 16 a.m. And this is 4 a.m. So your center would be 10 a.m. And then your campsite can be imagined as, well, 12 a.m. based on my previous logic, 12 hours after the start of a.m. So in other words, 12 minus your center, which is 10, so 2. And then once you do that, you will get a expected value of 63. Plug it into this equation to figure out the number of brown bears visible, and you will get 17. 27, consider this circle that's tangent to this other circle. Common internal tangent is aligned with x-intercept of a0, y-intercept of 0b. What is a plus b? Well, to go from the center of this circle right here, this circle is centered at 0, 0. This circle is clearly centered at 6, 12. So in other words, you need to go up 12 and to the right 6. So your slope is 2. And if it's the tangent line is going to be the perpendicular line to the line to the slope, if you can kind of imagine that out in your head. Because whenever you're going from the center of your circle to the outside, you're going perpendicular to the tangent line. So once you do that, that means that you find the perpendicular slope, which is going to be -1/2. And then you also need to figure out what your x and y value are at that tangent point. Well, we know that y changes for 2 times x, so x squared plus 2x squared will get you 80. So you'll get an x value of 4 and a y value of 8 where they are tangent. So plug that into your equation with point slope form. You'll find that the y-intercept is 10 and x-intercept is 20. Add them together and you get 30 as your answer. Just an obtained sample of radioactive plutonium at 5 a.m. on Wednesday. Only 0.151 grams remained on 5 a.m. on Thursday, and 0.501 remained 7 p.m. on Thursday. Find the amount of plutonium originally obtained. So as seen here, the plutonium multiplies by 0.501 over 1.51 over the course of 14 hours. So after 14 hours, this equation, 1.51, or this amount, 1.51, gets multiplied by 0.501 over 1.51. And you should be able to imagine that after 14 hours. So you have to divide your time by 14 to counteract that. We're going to say that the start time is 1.51. So at 5 a.m. on Thursday. Well, this was 5 a.m. on Wednesday, so 24 hours ago. Plug in -24 for your time, and you'll get a value of 10.008 grams. 39 to 30, consider the graph with the vertex to -6, the point 0, -4, and 0, -8 both lie on the graph of the parabola. Well, you'll probably start putting in these points to stat edit and then realize you have two y values for a given x, which means the parabola is going to the right or the left. And so to make things simpler, we're going to flip the x and y's, and when you put into stat edit, so put in -6, 2, -4, 0, and -8, 0. Then once you do that, you'll get the equation. You'll get an a value of -0.5. Well, now you need to figure out the equation of the directrix, so you have to figure out the distance to the focus. because the distances are the same. So it's going to be your slope, or your a value, your coefficient of x squared times 4 power to negative 1 is your focus distance, which is 0.5. Then once you have that, your vertex is at 2. Clearly, you can see all these are adding from 2, so 2 plus 0.5 will get you 5 over 2 as your directrix equation. The point 0 at, remember to flip this, lies on the graph of the parabola, and the point EF is the focus of the graph. What is the length of FT? Well, the directrix increased the x value by 0.5, which means the focus must decrease the x value by 0.5, because that's kind of how directrix and focuses work. They go the same distance in opposite directions. So your focus is going to be at the point 3, 2 and negative 6, or 3 over 2 and negative 6. And then point 0, a, well, you flip the x and y, so you need y of 0 to get negative 16. And once you put that into the equation, y of 0, you'll get an x value of negative 16. So negative 16, 0 is your actual point, and then your focus is happening at 1.5, negative 6. The x's and y's are not swapped for these, by the way. Then once you do that, you just do Pythagorean theorem for change in x and change in y. Square root of 17.5 squared plus 6 squared will get you 18.5 as your distance. 31, Computer World in Big Timber, Montana, currently has 20 computers in stock. 15 have 16 gigabyte RAM, 5 have 8 gigabyte RAM. Rancher Rob randomly selects 4 computers. What's the probability at least 2 of the computers have 16 gigabyte RAM? Well, the probability that's the case is 1 minus the probability that there's 1 or 0 computers with 16 gigabyte RAM. So let's figure out the case that probability of that happening, because that sounds way easier. So what you'd have is, let's figure out the probability that one computer has 16 gigabyte RAMs. Well, there's 15 combination ways one computer can be selected, or one 16 gigabyte RAM computer can be selected. And then there are 5 combination 3 ways of the 5 8 gigabyte RAMs can have 3 selected. And then there's 20 combination 4 ways 20 entire computers can be, or 4 entire computers from the 20 can be selected. Definition of combination and all that. So you do a similar process for the situation in which 16 gigabyte RAM computers are selected. Number of ways 0 can be selected, times number of ways 4 8 gigabyte RAMs can be selected, over the number of ways 20 or 4 computers out of 20 can be selected. Then once you do that, you'll get a value of 0.968. Consider AB such that every point on AB is the same distance from negative 6,4 as 0.8, negative 2. This equidistant means perpendicular bisector. So in other words, you need to figure out the midpoint and you need to figure out the slope. Well, the midpoint, you just average the x's and y's, so you get 1, 1. Your slope, y goes down 6 and x goes up 14, so your slope is negative 6, 14. Change it to 7 over 3. And then, because it's perpendicular slope, and then write it in point slope form. 7/3 x minus 1 plus 1, because you're using your midpoint as your point that you're given. Plug in 13 and you'll get a value of 29.0. Okay, ship A leaves port at 1 p.m. Travels an average speed of 18 miles per hour, bearing 140 degrees. Ship B leaves port at 3 p.m. Travels 24 miles per hour at 284 degrees. What time will the ship be 155 miles apart? Give me a sec. Okay, well, basically we're doing some giant law of cosines to figure out what time side C is equal to 155 miles. So you're basically drawing like a giant triangle like this. You need to figure out when this side right here is 155 degrees. So, well, this side, it's been traveling for, this side we can imagine, let's say this is ship A. It's been traveling, this actually doesn't make any sense it's ship A given the bearing, but whatever. Ship A has been traveling for 2 hours extra, so 36. So they've traveled an extra 36 miles. So 36 plus 18x is going to be one of your sides, and then 24 times your time is going to be your other side. So because that, and then your angle is going to be the difference in bearings. So 284 minus 104, which is 140. So now you're using law of cosines for all those sides and angles. A squared plus b squared minus 2 times a times b times cosine of your angle will get you 155. Do that, you'll get an x value of like 3.07 or something. And then once you get that, you have to add it to 3 p.m. and then convert it to hours and minutes. Like, so you just subtract your 6 and your 6 p.m. and then multiply it by 60, and you get your answer. 34. Consider an ellipse for any point EF that lies on the ellipse. The distance point P to the point 24 plus the distance from point P to point 14,4 is equal to 40. The equation of the ellipse is that, then B is equal to what? Well, for that to be the case, I can't exactly explain why, but basically for that to ever be the case, the distance from point P to the center of your ellipse has to be the center of your 2 points. Because otherwise it wouldn't be symmetric in any direction, which it kind of has to be for the distances to be equal in every scenario. So your midpoint, the center of your circle is going to happen at the midpoint, so 8, 4. Center must be 8, 4. Then once you have that, you know that you can imagine that you're looking at the part straight up from the center of your circle. So the point going straight up with this is your center, your circle is looking like this or something. I'm not going to draw the entire circle. So now you can do math with this point being straight up. So, well, it's going 6 in each direction to reach the center from each of the 2 points. And then it's also going up a certain number of y, which will correspond to this b here. So the square root of 6 squared plus y minus 4 squared, this will get you the y value of your point. And then the area or the distances are going to be equal, so you can multiply it by 2. And that has to be equal to 40. Then once you do that, you'll get a y value of 23.1. You have to subtract 4 to counteract for the starting point at y equals 4. And then once you do that, that'll represent your y radius, basically. So how far up y it can go, or it can go in the y direction, which is equivalent to b in the ellipse. That's what b represents. So 19.1. 35, this graph right here is an ellipse that axes have been rotated how many degrees? Well, okay, what you have to do is basically 1 over tangent of 2 theta is equal to this a, the x squared coefficient minus the or y squared coefficient over the xy coefficient. Once you do that, you'll see that the equation has been rotated 34 degrees. Okay, once you do that, 36. Graph of the parametric equations or 4 secant of theta plus 3 and y is equal to 3 tangent of theta minus 2 is a hyperbola. The asymptote with a positive slope has an x-intercept of what? I've never really had to learn what all these properties mean. However, I can graph this into parametric equation, mode, parametric, and then get some qualities. I have learned that y over x is equivalent to your slope of your asymptote, however. So I do know that your slope line is going to be 3 over 4. And then if you look at it, you can clearly see that the x value of your center is 3, and your y value center is -2. So that'll get you your asymptote equation of 3 over 4, x minus 3 minus 2, and an x-intercept of 5.66666, repeating, or 5.7. The graph of the polar equation, r is equal to 4 over 3 plus 2 sine of x, is an ellipse focused at point AB. A plus B is what? There are multiple ways you can do this. First off, like always, I'd suggest just going to polar form and plugging in the equation. So 4 over 3 plus 2 sine of theta. Make sure you're in radians. And then you can draw some analysis on your own. If you do that, you can eventually figure out where the center is. You see that center is very clearly at x equals 0. However, you can also do things another way. Whenever the theta is pi over 2, that means it's going to be pointing straight up, or that the r value is going to be pointing up. And at at theta equals 3 pi over 2, it's going to be pointing down. So you can figure out the value of r of pi over 2 and r of 3 pi over 2, knowing that the second is going in the negative direction. And you'll get the values of 0.8 and -4. We'll take the average of them. Negative 0.8 plus negative, or 0.8 plus -4 divided by 2 gets you negative 1.6, which is going to be your center y. Find the distance from this point to this plane. You should know how to do these by now if you've been paying attention to the videos. What you do is, yeah, what you do is you do dot product and then subtract this 6 over here. So 2 times 1 plus 3 times -2 plus 5 times 3 minus 6 over square root of 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared equals 1.3. Another questions basically appear on every test. Now here's for some questions that have never appeared on a test before, probably. Radius of a large circle is 10. Radius of a smaller circle is 6. Crescent-shaped region 1 is a lune. And they're given some facts that this is perpendicular and all that stuff, perpendicular bisector. The perimeter of the lune is what? Well, the perimeter is going to have this aspect right here and this aspect right here. Well, this part of the perimeter is going to be the half of the circumference of AB, because AB is the diameter. So you have your radius of 6, so 6 times 2 pi divided by 2. And you also have this right here. Well, you need to figure out this angle x. You can figure out what proportion of circle O AB is. So you need to do, well, you have your opposite. You have your hypotenuse, 6 and 10, because they're the radiuses. So sine -1 of 6 over 10 will get you your angle x of 36.87. Then you can multiply it by 2 to figure out the length of this entire angle. And then once you have that, you'll be able to figure out the area of this part of the circle. So the circumference of your entire circle, 10 times 2 pi, times your angle over the entire 360 degrees in your circle will get you the length of segment AB. Add those two together and you get a perimeter of 31.7. The area of the lune is what? In this case, the area of the lune can be understood as this AB part semicircle minus this AB segment right here. So we'll start with this semicircle part. So radius squared times pi over 2. And then you're subtracting essentially this part right here. Well, we got to figure out what this AB segment is right here. So you're going to use that with our bounded segment line. I don't even know what they're called at this point. The same equation we've used on basically every test by now. So radius squared times pi times 2x over 360. Figure out the length or the area of part of the circle ABO. So radius squared times pi times the angle over the entire 360 degrees, and then minus your area of your triangle, so side squared sine of your angle over 2. Then once you have subtracted that value from your semicircle, you get an area of 40.2. 41, find the area of the region bounded by these two graphs. Well, what you do is you stat edit regression both of the graphs. You should know how to do that by now. Stat edit and then calculate linear regression and quadratic regression. Store them in y1 and y2. And then do OXOR with, we don't need input. The calculator will find the intersections just fine. And then your line of revolution as seen in problem 42 is -10. So OXOR no input -10, and that'll get you the area under a curve and the y revolution line. Once you have that, question 43 now. Volume of a solid whose base is the region bounded by the graph of y equals h of x and y equals f of x, and whose cross sections perpendicular to the x-axis are semicircles. The equation for cross sections that are semicircles is your length or segment squared times pi over 8. So it's going to be the integral from your two bounds. So you can find them with EQ solver, negative 0.6056 and 6.606. And then of your segment of length at a given x value, so y1 minus y2 squared times pi over 8. And you'll get a value of 63.8 if you do that. 44, if the arc length of the graph y equals h of x on the interval a 7.4 is 24.51, a is less than 0, what is a? Well, the formula for arc length is integral from your two bounds, which one of them is unknown, of square root of 1 plus h prime of x, all squared. So the derivative of h of x, and you have to square that derivative. So it if you try and just put this into EQ solver using d over dx and integral, you're probably going to have it take too long. So you can you can manually find the derivative of h of x, pretty simple. It's just negative x plus 2, I believe. So square root of 1 plus negative x plus 2 all squared will get you 24.51. And you just find this bound a and you get negative 1.8. 56, particle is moving along the x-axis, so at any time t in seconds, the acceleration of the particle is given by a of t is equal to 1 plus 8 cosine of t. T is greater than 0, where a of t is the acceleration. So at t equals 0, particle's position is x equals 3, and velocity is 2 centimeters to the right. Find the position of the particle at t equals 4. Well, we need to figure out the formula for velocity and distance. So velocity is the integral of acceleration. So take the integral of 1 plus 8 cosine of t. So x plus 8 cosine of x. And then at t equals 0, its velocity is 2 centimeters to the right, so add 2. And then the distance equation, which is going to be the integral of your velocity. So x squared over 2 minus 8 cosine of x plus 2x. And then it's given that it's 3 centimeters to the right. Well, if you plug in 0 for this part right here, you'll get minus 8 cosine of 0, so negative 8, and you'll need to add 11 to counteract that. Then the position of the particle at t equals 4 is x is equal to 32.2. Maximum speed of the particle when it's traveling to the left. Just graph the velocity equation we found right here, and figure out when it's the maximum speed when it's going in the negative direction from t equals 0 to 6. You can use second, calc, and then min/mat, and then minimum for that to figure that out. And then once you do that, you'll see that the maximum speed is 1.35. So 47. Number of fire ants in Mr. Garcia's background is given by the differentiable function f. F of t is the number of fire ants present. T is measured in weeks. Number of fire ants is increasing according to this equation, where k is a constant. This immediately tells you that it's an exponential, by the way. If you're in calculus, you'll know this. The differentiable equation dy over dx is equal to y times some coefficient indicates that's an exponential equation. So it's some number times e powered to some other number. So at time equals 0, number of fire ants is 450 and increasing at a rate of 150 fire ants per week. So at x is equal to time is equal to 0, e powered to 0 is equal to 1, so you have to multiply by 450. And now that you know the rate is increasing at 150 fire ants per week, well, the derivative of e powered to some number times x is e powered to some number x times that some number. So if you have 0.333 or 1/3 be your coefficient, the derivative will be multiplied by 1/3, and it will be equivalent to this. Which is what we're looking for, because because this is the 150 out front we need for the rate. So simply plug 6 into this equation right here, and you'll get a value of 3325. 48 to 49. Rancher Rob has an elk ranch near Dritt. He stores rainwater in a large cylindrical tank, radius of 4, height of 3. Top of the tank has been removed. Depth of the water is 2 feet right now, and it's been raining. The rate at which the depth of water is increasing is shown on a table. Use a table to estimate the increase in the depth of water, and use Wright-Riemann sum. Well, this is an approximation problem, so put the data into stat edit, put all the times in L1, all the rates in L2. Then once you do that, go to approximate Riemann's table, and then write Riemann sum, because that's what's asking for with 4 intervals, and you'll get a value of 2.58. 49. Rob developed a mathematical model for the rate at which the depth of the water in the tank is increasing. His model is a function r, where r of t is equivalent to this thing right here. And then find the amount of water in the tank and t equals 48 minutes using Rob's model. Well, the amount that's added during that time is equivalent to the integral of your rate. So integral from 0 to 48 of r of t will get you a value of 2.95 inches. So 2.95 inches has been added to the 2 feet of your water depth. So now you can figure out the volume of your water in your container. So r squared times pi times your height, so 2 feet plus 2.95 inches converted to feet, multiply by 12 cubed to convert to cubic inches, and divide by 231 to convert to gallons, and you get 844 gallons of water. Okay, given y squared plus 5x squared y cubed plus x quarted is equal to 37, find dy over dx when x is equal to 2. We have a program for this, and anytime you see a bunch of x's and y's into an equation, you can pretty much know to use it. Put the equation into y1, make sure you assign it equal to 0, so y squared plus 5x squared y cubed plus x power to 4 minus 37. Once you have that, you can use your diff-EQ, so diff-EQ program, and then you're wanting the slope from the equation, the tangent slope, you know your x, which is 2, and then your y guess isn't going to matter, just put in whatever, and you'll get a slope of negative 0.84. Let 51 be the function with the third derivative 2x plus 8 power to 2 over 3. Coefficient of x power to 4 in Taylor series for f about x equals 0 is what? Well, that's going to be the derivative of your third derivative, because that's how Taylor series works. This is your third derivative. The x4 coefficient is going to be about f equals 0 is equivalent to x power to 4, f quartic, the fourth derivative of your function over your coefficient factorial. So you're looking for the derivative of your third derivative to get your fourth derivative. So derivative of that equation at x equals 0. And then, like we said, you have to divide it by 4 factorial, because that's how Taylor series works. And if you do that, you'll get a value of 1 over 36. Find the area of the region lying between the inner and outer loops of the polar graph of 1 minus 2 cosine of theta. Well, you need to figure out the bounds between the inner and outer loops. So you need to figure out, in other words, when they're equal to 0. You can plug the equation into polar form and look at it if you need to understand why. So r of theta has to be equal to 0. And that happens at points 1.047 and negative 1.047. So your bigger graph is going to be everything that's not between those 2 points. So 1.047 to 2 pi minus that point, or in other words, the entire circle will go from 2 to 2 pi. So this basically includes everything that's not that. So once you do that, you do the area of a polar equation, which is r of theta squared over 2, integral of r theta squared over 2. And then that'll get you the area of your outer loop, and you have to subtract it between the area of your inner loop. to find the area lying between them, because the outer loop includes the inner loop right now. So then you do integral from your 2 points of r f theta squared over 2. The same formula used before, and you get an area of 8.34. Distribution of the amount of water in a 20-ounce bottle of Olney Natural Springs water is approximately more normal with a mean of 20 and standard deviation of 0.45. Approximately what proportion of bottles have less than 19 ounces? Well, this is just another normal, easy, normal CDF problem. Your lower bound is negative infinity. It needs to be less than 19 ounces, so 19 is your upper. Your mean is 20. Your standard deviation is 0.45, and you'll get a proportion of 0.013. 54. Assume that a length of a fully grown lesser, excuse me, I guess this is fine. Assume that the length of a fully grown lesser bandicoot rat has roughly normal distribution with a mean of 36, standard deviation of 1.5. Find the interquartile range. Well, the interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1, or in other words, the middle 50% of your data, the distance between them. So inverse norm of 0.5, mean of 36, standard deviation of 1.5. You're looking for the center 50%. And then if you subtract the bounds, you'll get the interquartile range of 2.0. 55, a survey plan to determine how much personal debt was the minimum number of people in the age group. They should plan the survey to be within 1,000 of the true mean with 90% confidence. Well, to figure out 90% confidence, we have to figure out how many standard deviations away it can be. So, inverse norm of 0.5 or 0.9, mean of 0, standard deviations of 1, and center will get you the number of standard deviations away it can be to still be within 90%, or it has to be within 90% confidence. So once we have that, that means that we need to divide that number of standard deviations by 1,000 to figure out, because we're calculating what does the new standard deviation have to be. So divide that number by 1,000 to figure out the necessary standard deviation. And then how many people you need to do is you need to take the original standard deviation and divide it by the square root of the number of people taking your survey. And that's derived from a few other formulas I don't remember. But if you do that, you'll get 650, like point something, which means you need 651 people. Okay, 56 and 57. Professor Scatterfield selected 9 of his statistics students to participate in a small study. Wants to see if offering a group study improved their scores. Assume test 1 and test 2 are equal difficulty, and they were not offered a study session before test 1. Okay, and they want you to perform, hypothesis test and all that. So, there are a few things you got to notice. These are based on students, and students' performances are not consistent. Some students are smarter than others. Therefore, it's not fair to cross-compare students in a way. You can't compare the score student 1 got on 82 on test 1 with the score student 5 got on test 2. You can only really realistically compare it to themselves. In other words, this is a pair t-test. You have to So you have to put the differences between the scores into L1 and then do a t-test on that. So you'll be putting 2, 3, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, and 4 into L1. And then you'll run a t-test. You need to figure out what test statistic would cause you to reject HL. Well, this is definition of inverse t. There's your significance level is 0.10, which means your area that it has to be within is everything that's not the significance level, so 0.9. And then your DF is 1 minus the number of students taking your test, so 8. And if you do that, you'll get a value of 1.397. Okay, and the p-value obtained from the test was what? Well, now you can use your t-test. Go to stat, test, t-test. You have some data that you put into L1. So you select data. You're assuming that there's no effect, and you're looking for your hypothesis is that there is an effect. So it's greater than that the scores increase. So it's greater than 0. And if you do that, you'll get a value or p-value of 0.00007, which is very much good enough proof. 58. A lottery ticket costs $10. The lottery, 6 numbers are randomly selected without repetition. If you select all 6 numbers, you win 10 million. If you select 5 or 6 numbers, you win 100,000. And if you select 4 over 6, you get 100. What is the expected value of a lottery ticket? Okay, well, first off, let's figure out the number of. There's only one way you can select all 6 numbers in terms of combinations. You just select all 6 of them and don't select any wrong ones. However, there are 40 combination 6 ways you can choose 6 numbers from the entire data set. So you have to divide your $10 million winnings by that value. Then, once you have that, you need to figure out the probability that they select 5 out of 6 numbers. Well, there are 6 combination 5 ways you can select 5 of the 6 winning numbers. And then there are 34 combination 1 ways you can select one of the 34 losing numbers. Once again, 40 combination 6 ways you can select all the numbers. And then if you do that correctly, you get $100,000. The same process is done for the third one, 6 combination 4 times 34 combination 2, divide by 40 combination 6 times 100, and then you subtract it from the original cost of $10 to buy a lottery ticket, and you get an expected value of negative 1.86. 59. Professor Stat randomly selected 50 students at ISU, collected information about their parents, analyzed the data, noticed a strong positive linear relationship between a student's final grade and their college average of their student's mother, and he ran a least squares regression line. It's important to note that the student's final grade is dependent on the student's mother's college grade. The mother's college grade cannot be dependent on the child's grade because your mother probably got that grade before you were born. So in other words, this is your x value, CA, and FG is your y value. Then once you do that, you do your equation for uh, linear least squared regression model given standard deviations and mean. So your slope is your standard deviations times your r value, which is going to be square root of r squared. So 4 over 3, your y over x standard deviation, times square root of 0.81, and then in point slope form, x minus 92 plus 88, and then y of 98, which is what you're looking for, will get you 95.2 or 95 as your expected grade. 60 is analysis predicts that for each increase in 1 point of other's college grade average, there is a corresponding increase of how many points in the student's final grade. Well, in other words, it's just asking what's the slope of this line? Well, it's 4 over 3 times square root of 0.81, 1.2. And that's the entire test. Okay, we went a bit over an hour. Honestly, we finished it faster than I thought we would. I skipped and skimmed over a few of the less complicated stuff. So if you want to better understand some of that stuff, you can watch a few of my other videos or leave a comment or ask me in person. I'll try to answer them. And now it's time to start on the number sense videos pretty soon. Enjoy this test. It's very well made. And hopefully you can master a lot of stuff on here because it's very good for getting really good at the high level math test. All right, see you guys later.